Many thanks for staying with us. It's still Report Desk Africa. And in case you're just joining us, well, you've missed the first half, but we're still on. We just talked about the political tension in River State. Now we're going to talk about the political tension in Ondo State. That is a southwestern part of the country where the State House of Assembly has declared Lucky Aiyedatiwa as the acting governor of Ondo State, following the letter from Governor Rotimi Akeredolu on his plans to embark on a medical leave. Now, the governor's action is in line with Section 190 of the Constitution of Nigeria as amended. His deputy, Honorable Lucky Aiyedatiwa, has now assumed the responsibility of the governor in acting capacity until there is a written declaration to the contrary. The governor will be going on medical leave for the third time this year, and his absence has caused a protracted crisis in his cabinet and the ruling All Progressives Congress in the state. And I remember that even his health has become a thing of question. You know, a lot of people are saying that, is he actually fit to govern? But anyways, we're now joined by Bernard Akede, who is live in Ondo State, who'll be giving us update on the situation. Hello, Bernard. Can you hear us?
I can hear you loud and clear. Good evening.
Good evening to you too. All right, very quickly, can you give us an update on what's going on in Ondo State?
Okay, like you did mention, there was, will I say, some kind of, not exactly physical crisis in Ondo State, but some kind of confusion. And this started approximately from around September 2023 this year, when the governor, it was understood that the governor was ill. You know, he traveled, and then he came back and went to his Ibadan residence. He didn't come to the States. And since then, the governor had not resumed in office as #1 citizen of Ondo State. And of course, that has raised questions in and around the state generally. Is the governor fit to run for office? If he's not fit, or rather to run in office, and if he's not fit, you know, what does the Constitution say about who should take over, when the person should take over? So there were questions surrounding whether or not the deputy governor should step in. There were times where there were confusions whether you know, the governor's signature was forged on certain you know, government documents. There were times when there were confusions as to whether people were manipulating and taking advantage of the governor's situation to their own personal benefits and for their own advantage, and, you know, blocking the deputy governor from assuming that position that the Constitution has stated he should assume should the #1 citizen you know, be unable to take charge of office, as it were. I mean, so this has caused a lot of back and forth, you know, and there's been a lot of confusion in around the state. Remember that we've seen something like this before when the then president of Nigeria, Musa Umar Yar'Adua, was also very ill and was taken out for medical treatment. And then there was confusion around whether or not his deputy then, Goodluck Jonathan, should step into those shoes. It took a very long time until then Vice President Jonathan assumed the position of acting president, and eventually, well, we know the entire story. He became the president of the country. So that is kind of the drama we're beginning to see here. Now, it's quite coincidental because around that time, the governor of Ondo State now was then the president of the Nigeria Bar Association, and he was one of those spearheading, you know, the conversations around then President Musa Yar'Adua leaving office, or rather handing over power to his deputy. And now, well, some are saying that the same fate has befallen him, and we are seeing the same thing happening again. Like some say, lightning striking twice in the same place. But as at yesterday morning, there was official statement that the governor had eventually, or was going to hand over power to his deputy, and that the deputy governor was eventually going to be assuming the position of the acting governor, which he actually did assume this morning. And then he put out the press statement, you know, clearly explaining that he now has assumed office, work has started, that there's going to cover the backlog, you know, of disturbance and of absence of work in the past about 4 months. Also stating clearly that whatever issues there may have been, those issues will be moved aside so that governance and governance matters, as it were, would commence and will start immediately. And of course, for those who know, there is an election in the state next year, in fact, in less than a year. And so some are beginning to say that it's possible that people around the governor are the ones trying to perpetrate these acts such that they would I say, turn the hand of governance away from the deputy governor. But it's looking like the deputy governor, who is now the acting governor, most likely would have been favored to take over the position of the governor come the election next year. So this is a bit of an overview of what's been happening so far in Ondo State up until now.
All right, Bernard, I'll pick up from the issues that you said that the acting governor of Ondo State, mentioned. There were allegations that there was some process of impeachment against this acting governor, which he said that we should avoid as he regarded them as distractions. But I know he said we should avoid them, but let's talk about it. What were the reasons that were stated for his impeachment process? Why were they going to impeach him?
Okay, so this morning on the breakfast show, we had a guest who, Olubenga Omole, I believe is his name. He was the spokesperson for the 9th State House of Assembly here in Ondo State. Excuse me. And he said that most of those allegations were shrouded in one particular statement that we've heard one time too many: gross misconduct. There were no actual, would I say, reasons particularly as to why he wanted to be, why they wanted to impeach him. Just said gross misconduct. But according to what Honorable Omole said this morning, and after the breakfast show when we spoke with him, he said that, again, as I mentioned earlier, that there are people around the president who are trying to manipulate, the governor, I beg your pardon, trying to manipulate his ill health condition to their own benefits. As a matter of fact, he did say that he saw a document that he believed carried the forged signature of the governor, but that they're hoping that anti-graft agencies like the ICPC and the EFCC would look into those kind of issues, so that the people who have been perpetrating these, as he called them, crimes, will be brought to book. So again, to answer your question, Shewa, there really were no specific issues as to what they were saying that the deputy governor was doing to warrant his intended impeachment as at that time. The major statement that was just used was gross misconduct.
Well, I mean, just to say this in passing, it's looking as though gross misconduct has now become a good enough criterion to get people impeached, because the same thing happened in Rivers State. But that aside, looking at the fact that Aiyedatiwa is now assuming office as the acting governor, and of course he's still going to be actively part of the contestants for the upcoming governorship elections, do you think that this will give him some sort of edge?
Well, I've covered elections for quite a number of years in Nigeria and, well, in some parts of Africa, and I've come to see that largely the power of incumbency always comes to play. So it's in rare conditions or rare situations that the incumbent governor or president loses elections. It only happens where the person really hasn't done so well and the people actually want him or her out. Case in point, there will be 8 presidential elections in Africa this year. 7 have been conducted. Of all the 7 that were conducted, where incumbent presidents ran in those elections, only 1 lost, and that was in Liberia, where George Opongwe lost the election. As a matter of fact, he even had to have a rerun before he eventually lost that election. So it shows you that the power of incumbency always comes to play, and I think it's going to happen again here in Ondo State unless something goes wrong. And then, still going by the interview we had this morning with the Honorable, he did say that the governor, who is now on medical leave, and the acting governor, Aiyedatiwa, who has assumed office, have always been in very good terms. He said that they had more than an official relationship. As a matter of fact, they had personal relationships. He said that they go way back, and that he believes that the governor, who is on medical leave, has given his personal and official blessings to the acting governor, and he believes that going into the next election, that the acting governor still would carry the blessings of the governor who is now on medical leave. So all other things being equal, if it takes that trajectory, there is a possibility, there's a high possibility that the acting governor, we may just be seeing him assuming the position of the governor of the state. But again, nobody can tell the future. We will wait until next year to see what will happen during the elections.
All right, Bernard, I mean, final take from me now. My final question, I beg your pardon. So looking at the way, I mean, he has just assumed as the acting governor, and it looks like he's beginning to have issues with some of the cabinet members. The governor is away on medical leave. Whether or not they have a good relationship, that would have been the person that would, give his support. Do you think is going to have like a smooth running of governance in the state, pending the time that the governor returns back to office?
That's a good one. Again, I'll refer to what the Honorable said this morning, that there are a group of people who have been causing trouble for the governance of Ondo State. And the question he was asked was, can they be referred to as a cabal? And to borrow his words, he said they don't even have the balls to be called a cabal because they're not as organized as what you would call a cabal, that they're just a group of troublemakers. So he spoke. He specifically made mention of the party leader, whom he said should be called to order, and several times has actually been questioned and be called to order. And I think, going by what the Honorable said, maybe these persons would probably be some of the reasons why there may not be smooth running. Although the acting governor did state in his press briefing this morning, it was a private press briefing, he only spoke to state media, and then some of the clips and the scripts did eventually move around. He said that no doubt there will be challenges in running the government, but that with the help and with the assistance of everybody, that it's going to be a collective effort. All hands would be on deck if eventually they would make up for the past lost months that the state has been having crisis, and to look forward into the future to continue with the good work that His Excellency the Governor has been doing. So, of course, it's expected that there will actually be some hitches here and there. It may not exactly be smooth sailing all the way, but it does look like the acting governor is ready to get his hands dirty and commence work just as he has assumed office.
All right. Finally, Bernard, now you did mention that all these rumor and activity started in September when the governor's health, became a thing in question. Since then till now, you also did mention that there's a backlog of activities, a backlog of things to be done. So, amongst the things that Aiyedatiwa is going to inherit, is there anything, or has there been anything that has been lacking that the people of Ondo State have been complaining about since the governor's health issue started?
Well, not exactly like they've been complaining about things they've been lacking, but the major complaint was just that the office of the governor has been left vacant, and they've been in limbo as to what exactly is going on. So the people just want all of this to settle so that they know where exactly they are headed. They know who exactly is running the affairs of the state. Like I said earlier, some have said it's a cabal, some have said that it's not exactly the governor, some have said that the activities of the governor is being controlled by certain people, some have said that the deputy governor is not taking charge as he should. So I think that there's a sigh of relief now, at least a little bit, that the deputy governor has constitutionally taken charge and is now the acting governor. And I think what the people mostly want is just for the smooth running of the state to continue from where it left off. Of course, looking into next year when the elections would eventually take place. Ondo State actually is a peaceful and quiet state, and the people would want it to continue that way, as a matter of fact. So I think they're just hoping that with the assumption of office by the acting governor, that things would speedily pick up and that, life will continue as normal for the people of Ondo State.
All right. Thank you so much, Bernard Akeredolu, live from Ondo State, I don't think that there's any more update as to who is going to standing for the governor, because now the dust is settled, and we're glad that the people finally have an answer to their questions, and we do hope that Aiyedatiwa delivers. And we're going to look forward to seeing how this will influence the next governorship elections going forward. But of course, News Central is going to keep the people abreast of that situation. Thank you, Bernard, for joining us once again.
Thank you, Bernard.
Thank you for having me.